Hello everyone, this is Jack Franklin with a video tutorial for thewebsqueeze.com. In this video screencast we're going to be looking at how we can style a HTML valid table with valid CSS to enhance the experience for the end user. In this tutorial we'll be covering how to semantically encode a table in HTML and how to style it in CSS, including a couple of new tricks from CSS 3. Okay, so first things first, I'm just going to open up Firefox, and if we look at this one, this is what the finished article will look like. We've got the header definitely defined there with different styling. You've got zebra striped rows here, which makes it easier to read, and when you hover over a row, it's highlighted, as you can see, just a slightly different colour. All of this is done with HTML and CSS. There is absolutely no JavaScript used in this tutorial. Okay, so let's get started then, and I've got here just a blank page, which is what I'm looking at the moment in this window. All I've literally done is got a blank HTML page and linked it to a blank CSS page. I've linked them using this line here, but bar that I have absolutely nothing done. So I'm going to start just by tabbing in one, creating a table. And then today we're going to be using two elements. We've got t-head for the table header, which I will put content in a minute, and then the t-body for the table body. There's going to be one row in the table header, and it's going to have 3 cells. And you'll notice instead of using a td for a table cell like you would usually use th, which shows it's a table cell within the header. So use th for cells within the header and td for those within the body. And our 3 columns, name, age, and I think I called it shoe size. Doesn't really matter, the content's all made up obviously, but just giving us something to work with. And all I'm going to do now is just copy and paste in my table content, just to save me typing out loads of rows again. So inside the body we're going to put that, and it's pretty simple. We've just got a row with a cell and then your name, another cell with your age, and a final cell with your shoe size. And if I save that and refresh our blank page, we can see a pretty boring but functional HTML table. So now we can get on to styling. The first thing I'm going to do, pretty simple, I'm going to just give this a width of 500 pixels. And if we look straight away, that's going to spread it all out a bit. And I'm going to do another property called border collapse, and it's going to be set to collapse. And what this is going to do, if you just watch, you'll see when I refresh, everything's just going to squish up slightly. You see it all kind of moved up a bit up to the left. And what border collapse does is gets rid of any default cell padding or cell spacing that is within the table. So it's a good idea always to set that to collapse, to get rid of kind of all the defaults that might exist. So once you've done that, just going to style each table row, just some basic styling here. Obviously the styling you do will have to fit in with your website layout. Obviously I'm not limited by that today, so I'm just going to do a basic design. And then what we're going to do, this line, so we've given the table rows a height. This line, I'm selecting table cells in the body there, and th, remember, is for table cells in the header, in the table head element. I'm just going to align all the text, once I can spell it right, in the centre, and after that I'm just going to give them a pretty solid border in CCC, which is kind of a light grey. And immediately, after not too much effort, we should see already we have a very usable table that is much improved from the version we started out with no CSS. I hope you will be able to see that. You also notice that by default the table header element, the fonts inside it are always bold, so even without any CSS styling we can immediately tell that's the header. But we're just going to add a couple more bits of styling, and I'm going to set a background colour first, and that's going to be 111, which is very nearly but not quite black. It's a kind of rich dark black. And I'll set the text colour to white. So I'm selecting the table row inside the header, just changing the colour, and immediately that is now quite clear when you look at that table, that is the header. Okay, so two things left to do are zebra striping and hovering. I'll do the hovering first, just because it's the easier bit. We're going to select all table rows within the table body, and then add the hover onto it. And this means when a table row in the table body is hovered over, we're going to, so if I just show you that, you've got table body, table row, so when we hover over a table row which is in the table body, just want to make sure that's absolutely clear, we are going to change its background colour. And this is once again a colour I picked out earlier, E3, E3, E3. And all that is, you won't be, obviously can't see anything at the moment, but if I hover over, not sure how well that's going to come across in the screencast because I'm at low resolution, but I promise you, if you can't quite see it, that the colour of the rose is changing to a very faint grey. In fact, what I'll do, just to show you it's working, I'll just change it to black. And if we do this, you can clearly see that the hover is working. So I'm just changing it to black because you might not be able to make out the grey too well on this screencast. But now I'll put it back to the grey. I think you should be okay, just in case. So refresh that, and we've got the grey hover. Okay, so one more thing is zebra striping. Now this is most commonly done with JavaScript, because there's no real way to get every odd row usually with CSS. Ways it has been done before is you give a class to every other table row in the body, and then highlight it that way. But your problem there comes if you add one more row, then all the rows that were odd are now even, and all the rows that were even are now odd. So that's definitely not a practical measure at all. But with the coming of CSS 3, we can do some pretty cool stuff with some advanced selectors. CSS 3 isn't supported in Internet Explorer as of this, when I'm recording this, but Firefox 3.5, Safari 4 are supporting it. So if you're looking at this in Internet Explorer, you won't see this effect, but if you are in Firefox Safari, you will. And what you do select our table rows and then do env child, and this takes two arguments, which one argument, which I'll fill in a sec. And we can see here, all we're going to do is type odd in there. And what this is doing as a selector is saying, find all the table rows inside the body, and then get all of the odd rows. That's what it's saying. You don't really, env child means select certain of the table row elements, certain elements that are table rows, and we're going to select all the odd ones that are returned. You could just as well put even into that box, or you can put more complicated formulas into that box, but that's definitely a screencast for another day. So all I'm doing is selecting all the odd table rows, and background colour, let's just go for grey. So save that, and fingers crossed, and immediately there we have zebra rows, and there hasn't been a hint of JavaScript in this tutorial. So that's pretty cool indeed. It's certainly a new technique, which is why everyone is very much looking forward to CSS 3. So select all the odd table rows inside the table body and change their background colour to grey. One more thing I forgot to mention is the hover on the table rows. Adding hover to anything but an anchor element is supported in all browsers bar i6, funnily enough. So i6 does not support this, but again, that can be recreated with JavaScript if you want to, but I'm going to leave that because this is only a CSS tutorial. But if you can live with i6 users not getting the hovering, then you're fine. Okay, so that's all from me. This is a tutorial for thewebsqueeze.com. If you have any problems, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And I will see you next time, so thank you very much.